Challenges are what make life interesting, and overcoming them is what makes life meaningful. Joshua J. Marine. Hello, I am Everett Maxine, and I would like to thank you for listening to The Absence of Her. Please follow, like, and most importantly, share. When I first began the podcast in July 2019, it was in memory of my mother who passed at the age of 61 and was found deceased June 19, 2018. As her only daughter, I was looking to share my life experiences while processing my grief at the same time. Through my process, I have been able to help others have the courage to share and live their truths. If you have listened to just one episode or all 15 episodes, I would like to say thank you. Thanks to all of my listeners and followers, my podcast, The Absence of Her, has reached 1,000 downloads. I would like to say thank you to Ireland, France, India, Spain, Germany, Australia, Belgium, Finland, Puerto Rico, Russia, the UK, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Alabama, Washington, D.C., Arkansas, Wisconsin, New Mexico, Indianapolis, Hawaii, Nevada, Arizona, California, Colorado, Washington, Kansas, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Maine, Delaware, Connecticut, Maryland, Massachusetts, New York, Ohio, Louisiana, Montana, Mississippi, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Oregon, Texas, Vermont, Michigan, and Virginia. Thank you all for your support. Knowing someone is listening, sharing, and following continues to motivate me to want to share. And as I begin to recap over my 15 episodes, I would like you the listener, to think on which episode was most memorable to you. And please, if you can, share via email at birthtobless2019@gmail.com or follow me on Instagram at I am Everett Maxine and leave a comment on my YouTube channel, Everett Maxine, or if you've liked my podcast page on Facebook, you can share there as well. Episode 1 was the introduction to my podcast. I began sharing a personal poem about my battle with wanting to end my life, letting the listeners know I was willing to share my deep, dark truths. Episode 2, I gave an emotional recap of the day my mother was found. Episode 3, the pedophile and the preacher's son. As the Me Too movement has progressed, it was time for me to share my experience with sexual abuse. Secrets never leave you. Unhealed wounds mold you. Episode 4, the aftermath. How I felt after the abuse, the questions I've had all these years, and after I finally shared what had happened to me. Episode 5, Inside Out. We read about miracles in the Bible, but my mother's recovery was a personal miracle that allowed me to witness God's healing power in the flesh. Episode 6, Can You See Yourself? In this episode, I took a common watch show and related it to real people and asked, can you really see yourself? The real you. Episode 7, Bad Eggs, Heavy Weights. The Bible says we should not be unequally yoked, but our relationship choices don't always line up with the word, causing added burdens. Episode 8, Romeo and Everett, was my second episode on relationships and how a low self-esteem would lead me to the point of wanting to take my life and not to lose what I thought was love. Episode 9, The Stepford Wife. Part 3 on relationships. Sometimes we get so convinced that everyone else has a better relationship that we create a world of falsehoods to hide our own broken home. Episode 10, My Love, My Exit. My last episode on relationship series, in which I finally prayed for the courage to let go of the hurt and the unhealthy relationship. Episode 11, Self-Care. Self-care is necessary for our mental health, and our mental health affects our whole well-being. You have to love yourself before you can love anyone else. Episode 12, Set Me Free. No one is perfect. Even those who spread positive words and encouragement have down days. Check on your strong friends. Episode 13, Her Faith. I shared memories of my mother's faith in God and how her faith inspired me. Episode 14, Her Hands. My mother's hands were used as a servant to God and to others. Episode 15, Holiday Hurt. The holidays are never the same when you are forced to embrace your new normal without that loved one. My sharing my truths were never about statistics, but finding a voice while processing my pain and letting others know they have the right to use their voice and that the courage to be vulnerable will help them heal and know that they do not suffer alone. I am a motherless daughter, and if I were a small child, people would understand my grief and sadness. But as an adult, people assume death is just something you get over. Does a person's age make the loss hurt any less? I am an imperfect believer of Christ, and I have learned that there is nothing wrong with failure because we cannot be successful with every attempt to accomplish our goals. I find it my duty to share my life experiences, to help the next teenager who feels shame from being violated by an adult man. I find it necessary that I share for the next spouse remaining in a marriage that has become toxic, but they are too codependent to walk away. I find it necessary to share because depression is real. Life can get hard, and I am a woman that has attempted suicide and contemplated if my life was worth living. But by the grace of God, live to share my testimony that God is real. The peace He can grant you is real. His ability to be a provider is real. I share because I am a woman who has lived in an exhausting facade of allowing people to believe that I had my life together when I couldn't even face myself in the mirror because all I saw was an ugly, broken, worthless person who had failed with every attempt at my goals. I share because I have the vulnerability and the courage to do so, and pray that you will have the ability to do the same. I will end with a poem by Russell Kelfer. You are who you are for a reason. You're part of an intricate plan. You're a precious and perfect, unique design called God's special woman or man. You look like you look for a reason. Our God made no mistake. He knit you together within the womb. You're just what He wanted to make. The parents you had were the ones He chose, and no matter how you may feel, they were custom designed with God's plan in mind, and they bear the master seal. Know that trauma you faced was not easy, and God wept that it hurt you so. But it was also allowed to shape your heart so that into His likeness you'd grow. You are who you are for a reason. You've been formed by the Master's rod. You are who you are, beloved, because there is a God. I am Everett Maxine, and I want to thank you for listening to The Absence of Her. Please remember to like, follow, and most importantly, share.